So the changes I've made since the last is, I think this logo for starters, it used to be another one, but I decided this one suited it better since I use Illustrator to make this, so I can resize it whatever size I want to make it and it will still stay the same quality, and I think it has more of a logo look to it. The other one just looked tacky and I done it in Photoshop and it was really low quality, so I prefer this one. The start menu changed from that way to that way, if that makes sense. Nothing in the menu really has changed much, so if I go into the actual game, so the start menu basically has clicky sounds when you go over it, has new music, there's particles running down the side here, which is the same as the particles in game. This tip thing changes. There's an about section which fills you in the information about the game. Options menu doesn't work, it's not functional. I'll be getting this to work though when I have some time. And the quit button works, but obviously I'm in Unity right now, so it won't. And this is the game. So you can see I've changed a lot since last time. So there's shooting music, as you can hear, and there's also hit music. If I hit myself, you heard that. There's also a HUD health bar here, which isn't functional yet. And these bubble enemies, instead of being the blue bubbles that they were, they are now more of a orangey white bubble, which fits in a lot more, and I think it's a lot better. And the water molecules enemy is now orange instead of red. And they've got more of a creamier tone to them, so they fit in the background. So this is my fail screen. I've got an XP bar here, a score thing here. This doesn't mean anything, this doesn't mean anything, and it just tells you failed. There's a score down here, so it gives you 10 points for every enemy you kill. If we go into it again, let's get 1,000 points so we can win. So these particles here, I added them to the bubbles by making the particles look like they explode, and then I added a script to the molecules so they play the explosion animation when they're defeated, when their health reaches 0. So it detects when the molecule, their health is at 0, and it plays the animation over the top of their death. I thought that would add a nice little touch, since instead of them just disappearing, they explode instead. So this is the pass screen. Like last time, score doesn't mean anything. XP doesn't mean anything. The score here counts 10 for every enemy you kill. So if we go back into the assets and stuff, we'll look through these, see what new scripts I've added. So we have a bullet script, that's the same as last time. I've attempted, as you can see here, me and Rob have attempted to make the bullets curve when they shoot at the enemy. The bubbles, they shoot back at the enemies, but the molecules don't. So we were trying to make those bullets curve when they shoot, but we didn't get that working, unfortunately. Then we have a button manager here, so it tells me when I press quit, it would quit the application, and when new game button string level 1, when the start button is pressed, the scene level 1 would load. Button sounds simply defines what sounds are what and lets me play, so I reference this script in other scripts, and then it will play the sounds. For example, the start button has, all of these have sound managers components on, which would play the sound on click. destroy by boundary. This basically sorts out if the enemy leaves the boundaries, they get destroyed. So the boundaries, if I just quickly start the game and go into here, you can see how the molecular enemies disappear when they reach the bottom. This is the same with the bubbles. This did take some time to get working, but eventually I did get it working. And it also does this for the bullets. So if the enemy's tag equals enemy, if the destroy, else if the enemy's tag is bullet, destroy. So it destroys everything, so we don't get a build up of all of these bubbles, which would make the game run slower. Another thing I got working, here's an example of it. See how the game's paused? That's to do with points. So here it says if score equals 1,000, so it's referencing the score, which is, so if score equals 1,000, it tells the game, hey, you should pause. So it does this by, it tells the game that we should display this game object here. So here I have this game over thing. So game over dot set active true. So if you can see here, if score equals 1,000, it loads the win condition. The win condition is down here, void win condition. Game over dot set active true. So it sets this one here, which is the bar that goes over here. So it sets that one. And win.setActive equals true. So win is this one in here, which is all of the win information, which you can't see if I have that off, which is all of that win information. So that's pretty simple. It does the same for lose as well. So if lemon health equals 0, lose, run the lose condition bit. So it goes down to this lose condition, and time.timescale equals 0. This basically cuts out the whole game, like pauses it completely, so nothing else can happen. Game over.setActive true, so it enables this one. Lose.setActive true, so it enables that one. So that's how the win and the lose screen works. Another thing I done was here you can see me referencing the animator. So I was going to add animations to the lemon, and then anim.setTrigger shooting para, which was this here. So shooting para, player idle, it will go into player shoot, and then any state it is in, it can go into player shoot or player transform. Because I was going to make shooting the mouse 0, which is the click one, the left mouse button, and the transform to be the right mouse button. Maybe, I don't know what the quirks are for the transform yet. It just makes your character look different. I'll show you the animations because I have done them. But the one I really do like is the player idle and shoot one. So shoot one is basically just that. It is going a little fast, it's supposed to be 12 samples. Player idle I do think is really nice, so it's like the character spinning around, and I think it sort of gives that 3D look to the 2D sprite, which I think is really nice. So that's just that. I tried to get it working. So the point system, yeah, I've explained all of this. Rob helped me get this working. Sound manager, this, I was really proud I could get this working actually. It made the game really pop into life. So it basically says here, it loads the resources. So we have this resources folder here. This basically has all of my sound effects. So we have fire 1, fire 2, pick up negative, pick up positive, oh that really hurt, player hits, and select. So you should have recognised some of them from the menu screen. With my sound effects, I was a bit, well, I didn't know too much about sound effects in games, so I should have done more research into sound effects when I was developing this, since I only made these sound effects and I didn't know I would need a lot more, or I would need them to sound different. So I wish I did make a lot more sound effects, but I think the sound effects I have now will be fine. So here it basically loads all of my sound effects from the folder. As you can see, resources is referenced there, and then .load basically tells Unity to load that folder and then pick out each of these different sounds, and then so this one tells us that we only play each sound once, so that's what play one hit does. Play one shot, sorry. Play one shot makes sure the sound is only played once and not looped over, because then that would just sound really weird. I've changed the bubble, obviously it has firing points. I've changed this from 5 firing points to 3 firing points. I didn't want to make the game too hard. The fire rate is how fast it shoots, so 1 bullet per second. Health of the bubble is 50. So this is the bubbles bullet. It used to be blue, but I changed it to green so it would fit in better. It has a constant force on it. When me and Rob were attempting to add like really crazy stuff to the bullet, we changed this and we were like messing around with the constant force, and it made the bullet do some really crazy stuff when it fired out of the bubble. And here is the explosion for the bubble. You won't ever see that because I can't kill the bubble, but this one's the explosion for the molecule. I used a particle system, and then I went through changing some settings on the particle, like the emission. It immerses in a sphere, radius of 0.001. That basically means that it fires right at the middle instead of around in a circle. And then oh yeah, this was the script. I thought I didn't know what this done, and then I remembered what it done. So if I had all these enemies dying with all of these different particle emission stuff everywhere, it would just build up and slow my game over time. So I done a destroy self script, and this script basically all it does is destroys the particles game object after 5 seconds. So basically destroy game object time, so it references time, and then we go back to the explosion, and it just has a time thing there, and you put in the time, and then after 5 seconds it will destroy itself. That's about it. So yeah, see ya.